Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community, and this is one of the single most requested videos by my subscribers for me to cover in the last day or so. And it appears that Jeff Cavaliere, aka Athlean-X, has made a video about chest weakness, which is slightly ironic. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skill at my craft a little bit, and let's talk about this. And there's actually some good and bad in the video, and we're going to get to some of that. But it was kind of ironic to me that you see Jeff talking about this when, objectively speaking, if you were to just look at Jeff, and let's not even get into the science because I get picked on for a lot of this stuff too. If you were to look at Jeff, most people would say, I'd take diet advice from that guy. He is shredded year round. I'd take bicep advice from that guy. Look at his biceps. But would you take chest advice from the guy? He has basically a level of chest development that I would consider to be completely unacceptable for a grown man who's been lifting weights for a year. In other words, if your chest is still that small after a year of hard training, and I'm not even talking bodybuilders, guys. I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't like bodybuilding. But I mean, I've got pretty good sized chest. But you compare what I lift to what he does. And before people mention his age, we're the same age. We are the same age. So I want you guys to think I'm in my 30s or anything here, one of you kids. But the point is, Jeff has no chest development. It's way behind. His chest strength and his chest size is way behind. And when he started getting to his fixes, it becomes apparent that that's the case. Jeff has a chest weakness. So he had all these things for identifying it. Some of them were good, some of them were bad, but his solutions were the problem, right? And that's the point we get to. He has the background knowledge to identify the problem, but he doesn't have the strength coaching knowledge to actually fix it because he gets too caught up in fluff and bullshit and partials and all this other stuff that isn't science-based. And that's one of the problems. He markets himself as bringing the science back into strength, but then when you start asking other experts, again, like Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum the other day called him bro science, pseudoscience bullshittery, that there is no science there. Anyone who recommends that you do partial exercises to build muscle, to correct a muscle imbalance, I can assure you they're not science-based at that point. The science says the exact opposite, right? The science says partial exercises build less muscle 90% of the time, if not more, on any exercise. So when you start promoting partials to fix a muscle imbalance, that's bullshittery. That's not science at all. That's anti-science. That goes completely against the science. But let's talk about some things that he addressed. He did talk about the shoulder rounding happening on a lot of your pressing. Yeah. Why does that happen though? That happens just because you don't know how to perform an exercise. That's just bad technique. So in other words, if you're developing delts that are stronger than your chest on pressing, it's because you don't know how to perform a bench press. The pecs are a larger muscle than the anterior deltoids. They should be contributing more. And if you're developing an imbalance in the lift, it's because you never learned to bench press correctly. You didn't learn how to keep your scapula retracted, right, when you're at the bottom and keep them back as you come up. If you learn to do that, your chest is always going to get more involved anyways. And it's not just about the bottom. And that's kind of one of the big problems right there. When he started discussing those things, what happened? He started talking about, oh yeah, you can do partials and not go all the way. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what creates the problem. Jeff has great delts. He doesn't have a chest. Has anyone ever considered, or has Jeff considered, that some of his advice he's giving is the actual cause of his own problem? It's the cause of his own problem. You build a massive chest by scapular retraction and pausing at the bottom on every single rep. That's your solution. And I'm serious, that's the fix. If you have a weak chest, it's because you don't pause bench. It's because you don't pause bench. And I thought that was bizarre when he started talking about the fixes for it. And he says, oh yeah, don't be afraid to pause bench. Well, why would you ever do anything but pause bench? I mean, that's a serious question. Unless you intentionally want your athletes to have a weak chest, let me go back and say that again. Unless your goal is to intentionally have your athletes have a weak chest, why would you ever let them do anything but a paused rep? Now I see why Jeff has no chest and why the people he works with have no chest. Let's be realistic here. Let's be honest. Don't be afraid to pause. No, you need to be afraid to do anything but a pause. If you do not want your chest to be lagging, you should never not pause. You should be terrified of non-paused reps. So I'm going to go the opposite direction. Instead of saying, with Jeff saying, hey, you shouldn't be afraid to pause, you should be afraid to not pause. Why do you think you don't have a chest, Jeff? Because you don't do enough pause work. That your chest is non-existent. Just like people could tell me, Jason, why is your body fat not really low? Because I eat too many calories. I eat a lot of food. It's a very obvious, simple solution, Jeff. You don't know how to bench press. You've done reps that aren't paused, and I'm going to guess a lot of them. A whole hell of a lot of them. No, you need to be terrified of touch and go reps. You need to be terrified of partial reps. Not pausing on your chest on every single rep, including your warm-ups with the bar. You shouldn't even be learning a pattern to where you don't pause. If your goal is to get the biggest chest possible from your bench press and have one hell of a comp bench, you need to be terrified of touch and go. It's your enemy. You need to be terrified of partials. That's your enemy. So we need to go to the other extreme. You should be scared of the opposite. Unless you just want a little bitty tiny chest. Because that's how you build a tiny chest. Bouncing the bar off your chest, not touching your chest, tapping it too hard instead of pausing. One count. All right, come down, you touch your chest, pause, press. Down, pause, press. At least a half second stop on the chest on every rep. You do that, your chest is going to be big. Chest is going to grow. What I did like, though, I did like when he was talking about the chest weaknesses, a good indicator that you might be creating an imbalance, and it's hilarious because you don't see this. And to be fair, I would be totally happy. If I was working with athletes and they did develop this problem, I wouldn't actually be that bothered unless we're trying to maximize chest development in bench press. But he pointed out, if you're approaching a body weight overhead press, but you can't do 1.5 times your body weight on the bench press, you're probably more shoulder dominant. You've got a weak chest. And that's a good point. That is a good point. And that's about the ratios you want. What do most strength coaches tell you? What's your good ratio? You want your overhead press to be around 2/3 of your bench press, right? You want it to be around 2/3. And that's usually about where I maintain. I tend to be a little stronger on the chest, but I maintain roughly that. And that's actually a good ratio. And the problem we have is that not enough people do overhead pressing. And that's one thing that I will give Jeff credit for. I may give him some flack for this other stuff, but what is one of the exercises that I say every one of you need to be doing? Standing barbell press. He does promote standing presses. So I don't want people to think that I'm going to badmouth that aspect of it. But it's pretty interesting when you get to a point to where he has problems, his athletes he falls into this. He's a weak bencher. That it's a sign you've got a problem when you are pushing past that ratio, at least in terms of development. From a performance perspective, it's not that big of a deal. I would love for every person that I work with to exceed their body weight on an overhead press, right? That would be fantastic. That'd be great. But, he is right, though. In theory, if your bench is lagging way behind that, in other words, if you can press your body weight overhead, but you can't bench 1.5 times your body weight, you do have a weak chest. But you fix that by the pause benching. When he started promoting partials, saying, oh yeah, you can use partials in the middle. That is not how you fix a weak chest, Jeff. That's why you personally have a weak chest. And that's the ironic part, is that you have the guy and he understands how to identify the problems, and I will give credit for that. As far as the leading with the shoulder, the losing your scapular retraction when the weight gets heavy, the ratios being off, he's right, but he doesn't know how to fix it. And the solution is simple. Do the opposite of what he does. Do the opposite of what he does, because that shit will make it worse. That's stupidity. You need to be pausing on your chest on every single rep when you get under the bench. You get under that bar on the bench, you need to pause on every single rep, including your warm-ups with the empty bar. Do that for the next year, your chest problem will probably go away. I do like, though, that he talked about the weighted dip, because that's one of my go-tos. But we fall back to the same point. Jeff isn't strong on the weighted dip either. It's no wonder he has a chest weakness. I mean, what was he using, a 35-pound plate for reps? I mean, Jeff only weighs 160 something pounds. Doing work sets with 200 total pounds on a dip, you should be able to dip more than you bench, guys. And I'm talking full range of motion. You're doing a lot of partials in there. Hey, there's your same problem. Not developing strength, not going deep, not getting the stretch at the bottom on the pecs. That's why he has a weak chest. Do the opposite. Now, you should be getting strong. You should be getting strong on the weighted dip. And again, I will give credit for that. That was real good advice. That was amazing advice. Yes, getting really strong on the forward leaned weighted dip be a good idea. But Jeff, I think you need about another 100 pounds on there. You need to take your own advice and put some weight on there and get strong, because that's not good. You're like a 160 something pound guy with a 35 or even a 45 on there. That's totally unacceptable unless you're doing 20, 30 rep sets. I mean, having 200 total pounds on a weighted dip, combine your body into place, that's weak. That's still noob level strength. Totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Promoting pause, again, pausing in the middle. No, you need to pause on your chest. Yes, you need to keep the scapula back, but you need to be doing pause reps, touching the chest for the pause on every single rep and doing full range of motion. Partials cause less muscle growth. Study after study after study has confirmed that. So don't stand there and talk about bringing the strength or the science back into strength and then tell people to do partial bench presses and then wonder why you and all of your clients and everyone else has no chest. It's pretty goddamn obvious. You need to do more pause benching. You need to do more deep weighted dips. And the problem will go away. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.